So I think everybody's kind of arrived now. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Kirouac. I'm the founder of James Kirouac's Conscious Connection, Spiritual Past Life Regression. And today I want to talk to you about past life regression, energy, and law of attraction. And I think by the time I'm done my presentation, you're going to have a better understanding of law of attraction and what attracted me to past life regression and why I continue to do it, and I'm going to continue to do it the rest of my life. So by a show of hands, how many of you are familiar with law of attraction? And how many of you are actively using law of attraction? Well, it's a trick question because in reality, 100% of you are using law of attraction, whether you're aware of it or not. And by the time I'm done my presentation, and really in the next few minutes, you're going to have a better understanding on how we're all really using law of attraction. So what are some of the techniques or exercises that they use when they're teaching law of attraction? Well, they use meditation, visualization, affirmations, mantras. And really, when you look at all the different processes and techniques that are taught in law of attraction, and when you understand what they're really doing is they're actually raising your vibration. They're making you feel good when you're doing the exercise. And so once you understand that the energy that you put out, you get back tenfold. And so once you understand that, it really takes law of attraction to a whole nother level. So if you can imagine that you want to be a rock star, a movie star, or just really follow your passion, possibly be a gold medalist, and you start to understand that when you're doing a visualization, what you really need to be focused on is what it feels like to be achieving that passion, that goal. And so when you hold that resonance of where you want to go, the universe has a way of pulling you there. And so I'm really going to explain this further. I'm going to show you an illustration that I think is really going to take your idea of what law of attraction is to a whole nother level. So there was an experiment that was done using a copper ball on a table. And what they did was, this copper ball was hollow, and they placed it on the table, and they caused it to have a resonance, or a tone, or a vibration. And they recorded that vibration. And then what they did was they took the ball and relocated it on the table and played back the recording of the vibration, of the resonance, of the emotion, of that copper ball. And so what happened was the copper ball returned back to its original location where they had recorded the resonance. And so that's very interesting when we put that towards law of attraction. So when you know what you want and what you want to resonate, and you hold that resonation, you get pulled by the universe to different events, to different experiences, to seeing the right speaker at the right time, and opportunity just starts to flow because you know where you're going. And so you'll see how I tie this into my past life regression. Really, my story of how I came to do past life regression starts when I was a boy. When I was a little boy, I was in the presence of a white light. And this white light, when it touched me, I had this amazing feeling of butterfly feeling, tickling, just a blissful feeling. And when I woke up and I was looking out the window, the sky was blue, the birds were singing, there was a nice cool breeze coming in, and I just felt amazing. But the thing was that it had a sense of deja vu. And if you've ever had deja vu, it's very powerful. Well, when you're in the presence of a white light and you have deja vu, it just leaves you knowing that there is a message in that. There's a meaning behind it. And it's just always left me asking spiritual questions, and it's brought me to do hypnosis and to be here today talking to you. And so when I look through my life, I just know that I've always been drawn to spirituality in general. And in 2006, things were going really well. And I had a fleeting thought that it can't get any better than this. I had just gotten a new job, and I moved into a new position in that job. And in putting that thought out there, I basically put this glass ceiling and I began to go in a downward spiral. And I actually lost $35,000 in investment. I was suspended from work 3 times within a month and a half, 4 times in 3 months. So I was in a real low level, dark place, which at the time, The Secret came out. And so The Secret is very about law of attraction. And so I Googled law of attraction and I found Esther Hicks. And Esther Hicks channels Abraham, her higher self. And so the message that Abraham had was just what I needed at that time, and it just resonated with me. And I began listening to Abraham over and over till I was actually drawn to do 2 cruises with Jerry, Esther, and Abraham. And at that time, I got the idea that it would be pretty cool to be able to help people connect with their higher self, as Esther does. And so on going on the cruises, on the first cruise, I met a lady who introduced me to Dolores Cannon and quantum healing hypnosis. So when I look back on how law of attraction brought me to a technique that I can use with my clients that will allow them to connect with their higher self. So it's very interesting for me to see how law of attraction has brought me full circle to doing this technique. And so what can you expect in a past life regression? Well, it always starts off with a conversation because I really believe that our beliefs start at a young age, and when we can change our beliefs, and when we change our beliefs, we can heal ourselves. But a lot of times we're not aware that we have these beliefs, so starting off with the conversation and getting to know the person also builds trust. And so I've had several clients in the last couple of months come to me saying that they've had other past life regressionists try to do a session with them, but they weren't able to get anything. And I really believe it's because a lot of regressionists quickly have a quick meeting, maybe 15, 20 minutes, and then they move into the regression. And the regression, if you don't have that trust, you're not going to be open to it. And so the past life that I do, we build that trust, and then we actually have the past life. And it's interesting for me because I never know where we're going to go. It's an exciting journey because I have to tell you, you've been everything. You've been light, you've been energy, you've been animals, you've been bugs, anything you can imagine, you've been. And so it's always interesting to go into these sessions not knowing where we're going to be taken. And so in the lost my thought. So in the sessions, it's always unique. It's unique for every person that comes to me. And so that's fun and that's exciting. But what's interesting is sometimes we can be shown a life that's linear, that you and I would understand that we're moving and we're growing old as we're moving through the life. And what's interesting is that sometimes we're shown a life that goes from one scene in a single life to another scene into separate lives. And what's interesting about that is there's a symbol behind what we're being shown. And myself as a practitioner, I can't tell you what the meaning behind that symbol really is. But what's interesting about the technique I use is when we bring in the higher self, we're able to get clarity from the higher self why we were shown that past life and how it relates to this life. And also we can ask about the symbolism and what that also means in this life. And also clients are able to bring their questions and have their questions answered by their higher self. And that can be career, it can be relationships, it can be health issues as well. And connecting with your higher self, that is a really healing in itself. So if you imagine that when you know what it feels like to connect with your higher self and you resonate that out to the universe and you know that it comes back to you tenfold, in a very powerful place, very powerful place. And that for me is what law of attraction is about. It's about feeling your way to a goal, to an experience. And for me, the past life regression has that ability to bridge that gap between ourselves and our higher self. And in doing so, we're able to receive answers ongoing. Now, I've been asked in the past, do I have follow-up sessions? Well, I really think when you get connected with your higher self, There's no better counselor out there, there's no better teacher out there. And that's what we're all really reaching for, is that connection with our higher self. So that for me is why I do the past life regression, is to help people to raise their vibration, because I know as we raise the vibration of ourselves, we also raise the vibration of the people around us. And that's very exciting, because as we raise our own vibration, the people around us just come along for the ride, whether they want to or not. And so that's very, very fun. And so that's why I know I'm going to do this the rest of my life, because I've seen so much energy in the sessions. I feel the energy, and the client too feels the energy, because we are that energy. And so when you realize that what you resonate out into the world comes back to you tenfold, why would you not want to resonate being your source? And that to me is very, very powerful. And that's why I'm going to continue to do QHHT for the rest of my life. So I know I kind of went around law of attraction, and so I know that I came back to past life, but I want you to understand that there's an energy that we can tap into, whether you ever have a past life regression session or not. That it is up to you to raise your vibration and continue to raise your vibration daily. I used to think that life was just up and down. We have good, we have bad, we have good. Well, once you realize that you're the energy and that you're your source, you can kind of turn that, and you can start to go in this motion, which is very exciting. And that is growth, and that's expanding, and that's healing as well. So I'd like to open it up to any questions. If you have any questions about Dolores Cannon that I can answer, or about QHHT, I'm more than willing to take your questions. Do I practice in Calgary? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes.
How long does the session take?
On average, so the conversation, bridging that trust, can take anywhere from 2 to 3 hours, because sometimes I can be mother confessor. And there's healing in telling your story. Sometimes people don't want to tell their story to their friends or family because they don't want to be a burden, and that's understandable. And sometimes there's healing in knowing that this pattern from their childhood is still affecting them to this day. So sometimes there's healing in just having that conversation. So the conversation can last 2 to 3 hours. The regression part of it lasts no longer than 2 hours, and that part is recorded. And that recording is handed back to the client so that they can go back and have their aha moments. So on average is about 4 to 5 hours. So, yes. Do I hypnotize people? Well, there's this misconception that hypnosis is controlling people, because for the most part, most people are introduced to hypnosis through a stage show or through TV. And TV likes to dramatize everything and make it look like they're being controlled. But hypnosis is no more controlling than a commercial. So I'm loving it. Well, we all know what that is, right? So really it's now if you came back several times and I wanted to imprint a belief, absolutely I could do that, for sure. But it would take time, and it would take multiple sessions. Fear of public speaking? Well, if we know what the fear is and the higher self can show you that, you can break through that in a single session. So yes, absolutely. Yes?
How does law of attraction justify, is that philosophy justified for people who are going through torture or abuse, in that it's like, are you really going to save that person? Like, look, you put it out there.
No, she has a good question. So her question is if you're going through really bad times and life is just horrible and terrible, how is it that I'm putting that out there? Well, sometimes we come with a lesson, and we have these lessons to learn, and we come here with what we call psychic amnesia. We are connected to source, but we come here to learn these lessons. And so when we're able to learn the lessons, we can release it and let it go. And so a lot of times we don't know what these lessons are, and they can be carried over from past life, which is interesting because I wasn't quite sure of that when I first started this journey into past life regression. For me, it was all about connecting with the higher self. But as I've had clients come to me and have their problems released, I had a lady who was going through depression and had gone and seen every kind of modality you can think of, counseling. But what happened is in her past life, she was somebody who was deformed, and this disfigurement was still carried over into this life. And I got to tell you, she was a very attractive young lady. But to her, she wasn't. And so, and in doing that, she was able to release that connection to that past life. So sometimes we don't know why we have a problem, and that's why connecting with our higher self can really bring the answers in that we're needing. And that's how when we're going through tough times, we can really, there's a lesson in it. There really is. There's lessons in our problems. But Albert Einstein said that you can't solve your problems at the same level of thinking that caused them. So connecting with your higher self is giving you the ability to get in tune with the answers. And so that's kind of what the sessions are about, is tuning people to their higher self, where they can receive these answers that are right just for them. Hope that answers your question. Anybody else? Don't be shy.
Are some people difficult to bring to the point where...
That's a great question. So his question is are some people difficult to bring to their higher self or to get into a hypnotic state? Absolutely. Really, fear is the number one thing I find that hinders this technique. People carry fear, and that's what I was talking about. You know, their touches with hypnosis are through stage shows, through what they see on TV, and it's a misconception that they can be controlled. The other thing is too is that there's people that are out there that are very left brain, very analytical. They tend to be men, they tend to be business owners, and they tend to be like an engineer, somebody who works with numbers and has to have the physical in front of them. Because to do this work, you have to play in the imaginary. You have to be open to things you can't grasp, can't get a hold of, can't touch. And so yes, that's very hindering when you're left brain and you want to control everything that's going on around you. But once you start to connect with that, you see that you are controlling it really, energetically speaking. So if you're in a high level of energy, you're putting that out to the universe and it starts to come back to you tenfold. So if you imagine source is always vibrating at a very high level. And if you're in depression, well, you're so far from source that you feel that life is just kind of happening to you. And you don't feel like you can actually manipulate this energy. Well, as you start to feel good and feel better, it's not manipulating it, it's working with you, for you. And that's very powerful. And knowing that when you put that energy out there and you get in tune with it, you can start to work with it on an ongoing basis. Yes? Absolutely they can, absolutely. You see, we think of everything as being linear. Oh, sorry. So her question is can dreams be past lives? So once you realize that we see everything as being linear, because that's kind of, we grow old and we die. But when you understand that our past lives are not necessarily in the past, they're happening right now. But we're focused on us right here in this room, right now at this moment. And so we're able to, when we go to sleep at night, tap into different versions of ourselves in different lives. So absolutely, dreams can very much be a part of a past life for sure. And so when you have a dream and you want to know what it means, definitely put it out to the universe. What was the meaning behind that? Now the best time to do that is just before you go to bed and just before you get up. Kind of if you open your eyes and you notice that you're awake, if you can keep your eyes closed, ask a question, because you're in tune with that source twice a day. More times as you start to realize that you can get there anytime you want. So, yeah.
So what kind of problems do people bring to you?
Well, it can be any, so his question is what kind of problems do people bring? It can be anything from health issues, something they were born with, because that's probably karma from a past life. Sometimes it can be how you died, that's the karma you brought forward, because now you've got to deal with that. It can be depression, it can be just wanting to know your purpose. You know, a lot of people, when you're not clear on where you want to go, and you don't know the energy that you want to resonate and move towards, you kind of get discombobulated and you don't really know where you're going. So when your higher self can tell you why you're here, that really gives you a sense of purpose and direction. What's some other things? Health issues, there's a big one. Relationships, career, which is kind of your purpose as well, and moving into a new career, especially now with what's going on with the economy, everybody's getting laid off. You know, if you see that as being a negative thing, well, maybe it's going to move you into a different direction. So maybe in the end, it'll move you forward. So if you imagine going in a downward spiral, play with me here. So move your finger in a clockwise motion and then bring it down. So when you look at it now, I want you to realize it's going in a counterclockwise motion. So your problems can really be a blessing in disguise. For myself, losing $35,000 and getting into this place where things were going bad, there was one time where I'm driving down the road and I thought, I'm going to get in an accident. 10 minutes later, I'm on the side of the road and I'm exchanging information with a young man because we got in an accident. So legally, it was 100% his fault. But energetically, I had to own it because I knew that I didn't get rid of it. I didn't get rid of that charge out of my aura, if you will. And there I was, exchanging information on the side of the road. And actually, at that moment was the realization that it was time to start creating my dream life, the dream that I wanted to resonate to. And here I am standing here giving a speech. So yeah, or not a speech, but a talk, but you get the gist. Anybody else? Yes. So her comment is she doesn't like to think that we're bugs, that we've been bugs. But you know what? There's a lesson in being a bug. And I really believe that as we move forward and we're moving to new lessons, that the shift, that the awakening that they're talking about, the thinning of the veil is that now we're actually being able to connect with our higher self easier and with less effort. And that's the shift for me. And so really moving forward, it's about you raising your vibration daily. I suggest that you do it twice a day, once in the morning and once at night. And the one at night I think can be very powerful because if you can look back on your day and see where there was low energy and where you could have handled things a little bit differently, you can erase that. It's like having a spiritual eraser, if you will, and you can put better energy. And so then when that same situation starts to arise in the future, you're gonna be more attuned to it and go, oh, I've seen this before. I can handle it differently this time around. And that's pretty exciting. And so for me, it's always about connecting with that energy, ongoing. Anything else? Well, thank you for your time. I wanted to let you know, too, I'm having a workshop on Sunday at 4 o'clock. It's going to consist of 3 separate regressions. It's going to consist of a past life regression, a meet your angel guides or spirit guides, whichever you prefer. And also, it's going to be a progression into a future life. So yeah, if that interests you, go by the booth and get registered for that at the registration booth. If you want to have any questions and you're too shy to ask, come by and see me at my booth. And if you want to connect with me after the show, after the Body, Soul, and Spirit Expo, come by my website at jameskirouac.com, Kirouac spelled Kirouac. And please remember, the energy that you put out comes back to you tenfold. So be conscious of what you're putting out. It's very important for you and for me. So I love you all. Namaste.